Hi, welcome to JJ's Productions. We've got another Stoke City Vlogcast. With me as always is Jan. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Hope you're all okay, folks.
So we're starting off with the match review for Stoke City versus Middlesbrough. And what did you think of the game?
I thought it was fantastic.
I've heard a lot of criticism online regarding the result. Well, less the result and more the less attacking impotence the side had. But to be honest, I was with you. I actually thought it was a very good performance and a result.
Well, to get 0-0 against Middlesbrough, I think we did really well. In the first half, I thought that Middlesbrough dominated it a little bit. And after second half, I think they come out and we were a different team.
The way I see it is, when Tony comes to town, or even when we go to players' sides, I always think to myself, one, there's a bit of needle to it. It's like you can always imagine he's going to try and do anything to get one over us. But besides that, we never seem to have a good counter to play in his side. So I feel just getting a point, even actually getting the clean sheet against him, it's just a big plus for us. I recognise there were things to improve as always. But my fear was he'd run us. Literally he'd have 2-3 go against us, we wouldn't reply. So that's what I'm grateful for, that the defence held.
Yeah. I mean, I know it was 0-0 and you probably think, oh, that was boring. But I honestly don't think it was a boring match.
No, I mean, I've got to agree there as well, just for the fact that, especially when you see the team line-up originally and you're thinking, we're starting Martin Zindi at left back, we've got Barry Hino again sort of to the left of Afobe, you're thinking, what we're doing. But I actually thought we had a good team out there. Etebo I thought was a bit rusty. I didn't think he had a great, he had a lot of energy about him, but I think his touch was maybe a bit off.
He was mediocre, wasn't he?
I give him 10 out of 10 for effort. I think at times he just ran himself into blind alleys and it didn't help the cause. But again, it wasn't an over-criticism, just, again, a little bit rusty after the injury break.
Yeah, I think it was a good time to take him off as well.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a bit more Bojan in the game as well, I'll admit that. I think, especially when Etebo was getting tired, I think we should have changed that earlier than we did.
But unfortunately, Bojan didn't make his mark, really, did he, this week?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think bringing Crouch on was a bit of a mistake. I know Afobe isn't doing a lot at the moment, but I think Crouch against Aidan Flint
just doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I remember years ago when, oddly enough, when Tony was in charge of Stoke and we played against Fulham and Peter Crouch was obviously a bit more useful back then. And I remember he came up against Breda Hangeland and I couldn't help but watch that game and think, why are we playing like this? Why not try and get someone more nippier in, like John Walters at the time, or Cameron Jerome, I think we had, it's just a weird set of tactics sometimes, and you do question why we play that way. But
I mean, I've always said that when you've got big men like Middlesbrough have, you always play on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think we actually did from a fair part. I was actually worried we would overcross the ball, but I think not having wingers sort of helped there.
Yeah, because putting the ball high is just no good against them.
Although, I want to reserve some special praise. I don't know about you for Tom Edwards.
Oh,
I've got to admit, he did put some good balls in. Maybe there were a few more that were overpraised a little, where you're thinking, all right, someone would have really had to run for that to get it. But if I was to give him many words of encouragement, it's just keep doing it. Because...
I actually had him man of the match, didn't I?
Yeah, I'd have given it to him if I could have voted as well, so...
He tried his heart out, the young lad did.
Yeah.
And I thought he played really, really well.
He was a concern for me as well before the game, because I thought that, again, he's not the biggest at the back line, so I thought we'll be able to cope with Tony's bigger players, and he handled himself brilliantly.
Yeah.
So, I think he did actually get the Stoke man of the match, so I think that's something for him, and hopefully going into the game at the weekend he can carry this run he's got, because he seems to be offering more than Cuco Martina has been of late.
Yes. And it'll build his confidence up as well, getting the man of the match, the Stoke man of the match. And that's all they need, confidence.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I'd look at it anyway. You just try to keep building on the positives. So even if in this instance, maybe there were one or two miss-hit crosses, or as Gary Rowett did point out after the match, there was a late heavy touch because he was that desperate to get as a winner.
Yeah.
You can't criticise these things for someone so young, because they're very small negatives in what was a very overall great display.
Yeah. But all in all, I think it was a very good match. And I think to come away with a draw, that's okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to move on, and in the news lately, we've been hearing a lot about James McLean, haven't we?
We have.
And we did touch on it at the end of the last video in regards to, I seem to actually remember saying, if you've got differing views to McLean, just try and keep your mouth shut, and it seems like not just Stoke fans, but Middlesbrough fans as well, let's just say they didn't keep their mouth shut. And unfortunately, those same words should have applied to James McLean, but someone didn't whisper that into his ear either.
I mean, you're a professional footballer, and he's not the only one who's had abuse shouted at him from the stands. You won't be the last who will have this, but you've just got to take it on your shoulders and say, I've got to put this, I can't say anything about this.
I mean, I do think there's a fine line, just in the sense that, in McLean's own words, which I have to agree with to an extent, if this was a racist incident, like for example if he was, Muslim or some other issue, maybe it would have been dealt with more harshly by the FA. So I can understand his reasons for coming out, but what you have to criticise is how he's come out. I think what he really needs is a media person, someone to actually speak for him, because he's not very eloquent. And all he does is stoke a fire, and unfortunately we've got enough fires already, we don't need another one stoking.
Well, I'm a female, and for him to come out with that awful word, then I'm sorry.
And I'm certain there's people in the booth and end who wouldn't appreciate being called uneducated cavemen. Granted, maybe one or two of them maybe wouldn't complain. I've heard a few people within the Stoke ranks actually just joking and saying he wasn't far wrong, but I think that's as far as we take it as a joke.
Yeah.
I think actually aiming it as an insult, that isn't very good.
You don't say, okay, they may have been shouting abuse, whatever, but they pay his wages. And, like it or lump it, you've just got to take it.
The way I see it is, McLean's best approach on Saturday was to keep his mouth shut, not necessarily not do anything. He could have gone through the channels to try and make this clear that he wasn't happy, but unfortunately he did it the wrong way. So we'll see what happens during the week. Stoke are due to make a statement, or at least they appear to be due to make a statement. They did say in due course, I think. So we might hear more in the future, but up until then, we're sort of in the blind regarding what they're going to say or do about it.
Just my last note is, I truly believe he should be penalised for what he said.
Well, the argument is that Maritz Bauer has been sent to the under-23s for bad social media behaviour, so McLean shouldn't be treated differently.
No.
But we're going to move on just for a second, because there's been more stuff in the news, but more related to current and potential Stoke players. We've got a current Stoke player on loan in Kevin Wimmer, who appears...
Who?
I was going to say, it was more like who ate all the pies. And it seems like he might not be having his loans extended at Hanover. He's there on a season-long loan. They paid Stoke £1 million for the loan fee. And it looks like we won't be getting the 10.5 they said they'd offer us to buy him, because they're already looking for replacements. One of their head-honchos has come out and admitted as such, so it will be a surprise if come the summer we get that purchase price. So it looks like Wimmer might be a problem for us for a bit longer.
Yeah.
In other news, it looks like we're after a Brentford centre-half in Johan Barbet. I must admit, he isn't a name that has really stuck out at me this season so far. I've had a quick look, and he was on the bench against Millwall in their recent Brentford's recent victory at Millwall. So that's...
He's a big lad, him.
He'll look big, what I'm going to say. So it could fit the bill, but to be honest, I'd want to see more of him before I comment more there. So let's just put that a tab on that and maybe return to it in the future.
Yeah, he's just a name floating about, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason this story has any credibility to us is the fact that the reporter who broke the Cuca Martina story, he's the one who's sort of said about this. So there is a slight possibility it's true, but it's transfer gossip at this point, so we have no words, yes or no, on it. But yeah, so that's the news, but we're going to go ahead now to the Nottingham Forest match. First of all, we're going to do the stats, sorry. What are your stats out of the game?
Right, folks. These are really good stats in my eyes. They've won 6, they've drawn 8, and they've lost 2. And they're currently 6th in the league. Okay, you say, 8 draws, but them 8 draws have got them to 6th place. So it just shows that you don't have to just win all the time. And the 6-1, I think that's brilliant. And like I said on the 26th of September game, I've got nothing at all against Nottingham Forest. I truly believe they should be in the Premiership. And I do think they're worthy of it. My opinion, sorry, but that's how it goes. As for the top scorers, that's Lewis Graben, and he scored 9 in the league and 10 overall. But he's not the only one that we've got to look out for. There's Joe Lolly, there's Matty Cash, Daryl Murphy, Carvalho. Go on, say it for me.
João Carvalho, I would have a guess at.
Thank you, and you might as well do the last one as well.
Hilal Soudani.
That's him.
Soudani? I was reading your handwriting then, I'm like,
I've got lovely handwriting, thank you. Our defenders going to have to be 100% perfect in this match because they've got a lot to look out for.
I mean, as much as a sweeping statement as that is, I do completely agree with it in that, they spent a fair wad of cash in the summer. I was actually really shocked considering I've associated Forest a lot of the time as being very cautious because I think they've even had a financial fair play restriction placed on them for transfers recently, so I think they've actually just added in cash injection and blown it all on transfers in some areas, so I'm quite interested to see how they actually approach the season because if those signings they actually spent money on can actually get them into the playoffs or even better the automatics, that's cash well spent, and I would then be looking at Stoke and saying, come on, why didn't we just push the boat out a bit more? So.
Well, my prediction for the season going up was Blackburn, Nottingham Forest and Stoke.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. I mean, the Blackburn one was a surprise just in the sense that, they're obviously a promoted team, but you do get stories of that, promoted back to back. Stoke's looking a bit unlikely though, as well as Blackburn. But
never say never. I've said that Stoke will come from behind, and there's not a lot of points, from where we are to the top position.
Oh, there's not a lot of points. No, I think
we can fly up there. A couple of good wins.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it is, I'm just comparing our recent form a little bit. Now, I'm not going to go too much on Stoke here, but just looking at Nottingham Forest, since we last played them, they've won 3, drawn 3, lost 1, and that one loss was a tone to Norwich. They've been to Middlesbrough and won. I look at things like that and I go, they sort of seem in a better position to take on the top half of the table, whereas we maybe are just getting our punches in at the bottom half, and then just trying not to get beat up at the top half. So we're sort of struggling to get consistency.
Yeah. It's like Stoke though when they were in the Premier. We used to play good against the Manchesters and the Liverpool and the Chelsea and the Arsenal. Come and get the one holding all the table up and we'd lose against them.
Yeah, that does seem to be us all over, it's got to be said.
And I think that's how Norwich are. So, it was a good win, really, against Nottingham Forest.
You mean Norwich, though, sorry?
Yeah, Norwich, sorry, yeah.
But, I've got to admit, when you look at it, that win at Norwich is becoming more and more crucial in that sense, because I'll admit, I was really amazed when I saw them at the top of the table, so it's not that I didn't believe they could do it, but it's just a case of, wow, they've really snuck in there, a bit like Sheffield United before them, so it's just showing there's a very revolving leadership at the table at the moment, and you just don't know who could finish there. I mean, it's as hard as it is for me to say, I'm looking at Derby at the moment, and Forest fans might not like me for saying that, but they could be the ones to sneak up just in the sense that they've got a younger squad as well, so
Yeah.
maybe they can just keep the winning mentality going for a bit longer.
I mean, it's like with Leeds. I thought they would sit at the top. How they played them first 4 matches, say, I definitely thought that they would stop on top.
Yeah. But just moving on a second, you've got some tales of such regarding Forest, haven't you?
Yeah, as I say, I've always liked Forest, and in my heyday of going to the Stoke matches, in the 60s and 70s, and 80s and 90s, of course.
I was going to say, you can add a few more years on if you fancy.
I met the legend that is Brian Clough, and I always used to wait at the door for him to come out and get on the coach. And I saw Brian Clough, and I held my hand out and he shook it, and he actually said, "Sorry about the defeat." And I thought, no, that's nice of him. Nobody would expect that of Brian Clough.
I mean, I didn't when you told me this, I'll admit.
Usually you'd be thinking, oh, F off, because that's how he was, very straightforward. And so it took me by surprise that he actually did say that. Now, his sidekick, Peter Taylor, I just could not stand this man. But with Brian Clough, they were just a management team to be in awe of, really.
Just before you carry on, can I just clarify that Peter Taylor, is he the one who I think had some connection with England recently, or is he sort of like in his 50s or 60s now?
No, I think Peter Taylor must be about 70 odd.
I'm wondering if it's the same one I'm thinking of. It might be, but carry on with your story. Sorry, I was just wondering if I've got the right one.
That's all, really. I mean, Brian Clough was never afraid to say what he thought.
I mean, that's sort of what did him at Leeds, if I remember right. He upset the boat and none of them liked it.
I mean, I remember he went on one of these talk shows, Terry Wogan or somebody, Michael Parkinson, one of them, and he just sat there and said utter abuse, and you can't get a word in with Clough. Well, you couldn't get a word in with him. And I remember the person who was doing the interview just sitting there thinking, you could see his head spinning, saying, what do I do, what do I do? But they just couldn't shut him up. And I think at the time they had to come to a break. But that's how it should be. If a manager has got something to say, he should be allowed to say it, whether it upsets anybody or whether it doesn't.
I mean, that amuses me listening to that, because I can't help but think that even in the modern climate, you wouldn't get, say, Sir Alex Ferguson coming out, even in retirement, and doing an interview with, say, a Michael Parkinson or whatever. It's just something that doesn't happen. It makes it... It's strange for me, because it really doesn't give me the idea he was very much a celebrity manager.
Oh, he was.
Even in the world of Jose Mourinho's, you don't really get that now. I think Fabio Capello went on, was it German television a few years back, got the Mickey taken out of him because he had a lap dance on there, and, you think that's about as far as celebrity managers have gone.
I think everybody at the time wanted to interview Brian Clough. Everybody. And to get him was just wow, And obviously ITV and BBC were competing against one another for him. So to get him was another thing.
I mean, I'm just going to ask you, because this is about Forest, obviously, but what was Forest's team like back then? Because they were obviously in the European Cup at that point as well.
Yeah, I mean, they won it.
Exactly, so, I mean, what are your memories of the side?
I can't remember names. I mean, I can't even remember the names of somebody who played last week, never mind all them years ago.
What did we have for tea last night, Doc?
I haven't got a clue. So, as you can imagine. But all I know is that the team were good, and if they weren't, they were dropped. No two ways about it.
What was it like going there at that point with Stoke?
Oh, it was brilliant. The atmosphere going to Nottingham Forest was brilliant, for an away match.
Yeah.
And it had got a good atmosphere.
I mean, the City Ground's one I'd like to visit, I'll admit. I mean, I do have my hit list of stadiums I'd like to visit, and that is one of them. And I'm not exactly sure why, just in the sense that I think it's more because I feel Forest has got a good history.
Yeah.
But, it's one I would like to go to at some point. I mean, there's only a handful I don't, and I feel like they're the more clinical new stadiums that are just... I mean, to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that it's Stoke, I think the Bet365 would be one I'd probably skip over, just for the fact that that has got that feeling. But
well, I know when I was on honeymoon, we met a couple straight away who were from Nottingham, and they supported Nottingham Forest. Well, my husband, he was, the back of booth end guy, and they made it into a superb honeymoon for us, really. We stuck around with them for 2 weeks, and they were brilliant.
Yeah.
And we learned such a lot about the city of Nottingham as well, that I sort of took it as that I knew them and I wanted to see more.
I mean, that's quite nice. I mean, I'll admit I've never heard that story, so it's interesting for me to hear. But I'm going to say it's very different.
Yes, I'm full of them. I've got them all up here, they come to me now and again, my little stories.
I'll have to work over the international break, see if there's any more nuggets I can pull out of you. Speaking of international break, this is the last match before then, so shall we have predictions of what's going to happen before we have to watch England and
Well, of course, when we play England, we always come away with a win, and on form.
I'd like to think that.
Well, not always, but a good match. Like before, before the other England break a few weeks ago, we had a couple of good matches, and I thought, we're on here, we've come back.
Yeah, we got the win at Norwich then, didn't we?
Yeah, and then we come back and hit the slump again, just a little bit. But I'm aiming for a win anyway, because there's no other way that it can be. 1-0 Stoke.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to go for something like a 2-1. I mean, I'm being very optimistic there because our goal scoring at the moment isn't very good, and I think Liam Rossinier and the Sky Sports studio actually did a very good job explaining why, in the sense that we aren't scoring because we're defending much deeper and it's causing a bigger gap between the midfield and the attack.
Yeah.
So I'm actually quite happy with that, and I know a lot of Stoke supporters will say no, I'm not happy, but I'd rather us at least stay in games until Christmas by a defender who can actually run, and then we can push up the pitch a bit and work better as an offensive unit.
Just give Shawcross his due. He went up there and he was trying with them headers on Saturday.
Yeah, it's just a shame he seemed a
They
bit
didn't
sloppy.
go in.
But I was actually going to say it seemed a shame he was a bit sloppy at the other end. I'm not going to criticise Ryan if he starts against Forest, but equally if Eric's fit, I'm a bit uncertain whether he should play. I mean, I actually put him in this game. I thought maybe we'll play a 5, just in the sense of we haven't got wingers, so maybe we'll just go for a more narrow team, like Edwards played balls into the box. But honestly, it could be any team.
I definitely want to see Bojan starting.
I think if he doesn't start this game, it's going to be quite hard to explain why not.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping for a 2-1, just in the sense that I don't think we're going to keep Forest out, even though Aita Karanka is like the Spanish Tony Pulis in some ways.
Yeah.
I also believe he's just got a little bit more in terms of getting the goals than Tony has.
Yeah.
So I think maybe one of those players you've mentioned, I mean, João Carvalho maybe could be the one that is sort of ringing a bell with him, striking fear. But I'm just hoping we can get a goal from maybe an Afobe, just...
Well, I'll state my case. I think that if Bojan plays, he's going to score.
I mean, I go back to the Middlesbrough game for a moment, but it's like I felt he needed to come on earlier than what he did.
Definitely.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm scratching my head now, and I am hoping he did come on because I'll admit I've slacked a few times since Saturday. But, it's just the point being that we seem to lack something when Bojan isn't on the pitch, and I recognise he can't play every game.
Yeah.
I know there's a bunch of Stoke fans who say he must play every game, he must be the centre of this team, and I think maybe, I think some games pass Bojan by, and it's not that I think he shouldn't be in the team, it's just that I think you need to pick his games, and I think something like this is tailor-made for him, in the sense that, we don't seem to have any creativity in the team without ints, so put him in, just try and get something out of him.
And I definitely think that Berahino and Afobe should be playing.
Yeah.
Ince should be playing.
It'd be nice if Tyrese Campbell could get on the bench as well, because
Yeah.
we seem to be lacking that thrust up front. And
I tell you, I wasn't quite very happy with Joe.
yeah, he didn't really do anything. I mean, usually you can actually say he did something bad, but I think
He didn't do anything.
I think he actually touched the ball once in the second half, and I was like, oh, Joe's touched the ball. You know,
Yeah,
he had a very meh game. You know,
Yeah,
it
it
passed
was
him
neither
by.
here nor there.
I mean, Woods. I get the feeling people are getting a bit frustrated that he seems to be very passive and on the ball, but I think Woods is trying to look forward before passing sideways and back now,
I actually think that he's a clone off Glenn Wheel and me.
which isn't a bad thing. You know,
He
last
always
season,
passes the ball back.
you know, last season showed we missed Glenn, so I'm not complaining there.
But Glenn always used to pass the ball back,
Yeah,
you know, and we want it up forward.
but equally,
Yeah.
you do need players who are willing to keep the ball and
Yes.
put the foot in. You know,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, last season without Glenn Whelan, we got relegated. So,
Yeah.
you know,
It wasn't just Glenn Wheel and that stopped that, son.
it wasn't
Come
just
on,
him, but
they're a brick.
I think that was one of the pillars of our downfall. You know, and I think getting a Ryan Woods who is in a similar mould, it's a good way to at least rebuild the
Tell you,
team.
he's been cloned. He isn't just a mould. He's been cloned.
Oh, has he got
Get
ginger hair as well, Glenn?
He passes the ball back, and we should be passing it forward.
All right, this is a debate for another time. I'm going to say this is possession football versus Route 1 football. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. I'm going to say the Stoke City Vlogcast will be back for the next game. And until then, this has been Josh and Jan, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye, folks. Have a good week.